Is acrylic yarn considered cheap? The short answer is yes, it is. But let me tell you why you may still want to knit with it. Welcome you guys. I'm Jen of the Jenbug Handmade podcast. You can find me on my blog at jenbughandmade.com. You can also find me on Instagram at jenbughandmade. Welcome. So today we're going to talk about acrylic yarn. Is it cheap? Should you knit with it? When should you not knit with it? And what is the hype about non-acrylic yarn? If you're new to knitting, when you go to a big box craft store, the first thing you're going to see everywhere is acrylic, acrylic, acrylic. Acrylic is not a natural fiber, so it's actually it's a man-made material, just like plastic. Acrylic is essentially a form of plastic. So it's cheap because it's easy to make. You don't have to ethically shear a sheep and process the wool and go through all these processes to make yarn. There's a lot involved. So they just make the man-made fiber. That's why when you go to Michael's, you can get a skein of yarn for $2 sometimes on sale, or Hobby Lobby, or whatever store you're going to. But there are some times when knitting with acrylic is a good idea. So I'm going to go over why you should and why you shouldn't. The very first thing is you're learning how to knit. You are not going to want to go and spend a lot of money on a beautiful wool when you're first starting out, because real wool is expensive. Like I said, it's not man-made, so you're paying for quality over, you know, just getting a cheap buck. But if you're learning how to knit, you aren't going to want to waste money on making an item that you're probably not going to end up wearing or using, which is why I would recommend when you're starting out, you can start out with acrylic. The next thing is for gift knitting. I don't know about you, but I am a knitter who has made things and gifted them away only for them to get felted by going through the wash and the dryer. Some wools are superwash, but they still take a bit of maintenance to take care of. And they're not always as durable as an acrylic yarn. So acrylic yarn is great if you are giving away a gift and you are not sure that the recipient is going to properly launder the gift or take care of it over the years. Another reason you might want to use acrylic is for baby and toddler knitting. Babies and toddlers, as I'm sure any of you know who spent more than 5 seconds around one, are messy, dirty, rambunctious, and amazing. But we all know that they can get things dirty instantly. So acrylic yarn is so tough and durable because it is, you know, that plasticky fiber that it's gonna hold up to a good beating in the wash. It's gonna hold up to getting dragged in the mud, of having cars run over it, what have you. Acrylic yarn can be great to make stuffed animals, blankets, clothes, anything for a baby or toddler that you don't want to have to take care of and that you want to make sure it lasts for years to come. Why you don't want to knit with acrylic yarn? Simply because it's cheap. Like I said, it's a man-made fiber, and you can tell the difference when you're knitting. Any experienced knitter could blindly knit and tell you if they're knitting with acrylic. It's not as stretchy as wool and not as forgiving as wool when you're knitting with it, and you can feel that difference in your hands and on your needles. It can actually make your hands ache to knit with it. So it's not really always a great time. And that is honestly why, as an experienced knitter, you won't even find any of it in my stash. Second, acrylic is not as warm as wool. Wool is a natural fiber. If it's good enough to keep a sheep warm, then it's good enough to keep you warm. It comes directly off a sheep. It gets processed, it gets plied, spun, milled, all those things. And let me tell you, as someone who's currently wearing a wool hand knit sweater, I will tell you, this is the softest, snuggliest, warmest thing ever. Another reason that you would not want to knit with acrylic yarn is because it's not environmentally friendly. Wool comes from natural sources. It's sustainable. Sheep and animals such as cashmere goats, yak, what have you, they're not usually harmed in the process. Now, I can't say for every place that mills yarn, but for the most part, it's just like giving them a haircut, and then the wool grows back. Plastic yarn doesn't decompose as wool, cotton, or any natural fiber would. So since it's not natural, if it didn't come from the earth, it's not going to decompose back into the earth. When it comes to the real thing, y'all, it just can't be replicated. That's why I am a big fan of knitting with natural fibers, sometimes with some nylon in there for some strength. But when it comes to acrylic yarn, it's just not fun. For someone who's been knitting for a long time and knit a number of shawls, sweaters, socks, hats, anything, I will tell you that it is not a good time, and I would much, much prefer to knit with natural wools. Thanks for watching today, you guys. If you liked my video today, please like and subscribe, and I'll be sure to bring you more content where you can learn all you need to know about the world of knitting. Take care.